There's a specific type of exhaustion that sleep cannot cure. It lives in your bones, whispers in your quiet moments, and sits heavy on your chest when you finally stop moving. You recognize it instantly. The fatigue of being perpetually available, endlessly accommodating, constantly diminishing yourself to fit into other people's comfort zones. You've been operating as a human vending machine, dispensing energy, time, and emotional labor to anyone who approaches with the right combination of words. Meanwhile, you watch individuals with half your capability command twice your respect. They set boundaries effortlessly. They decline without explanation. They occupy space unapologetically. And somehow, the world bends toward them while you remain grateful for scraps. This isn't about becoming cruel or adopting calculated coldness. This is about understanding a fundamental principle of human psychology that will transform every relationship, negotiation, and interaction you encounter. What follows will dismantle the conditioning that converted you into a resource and reconstruct you as an architect of your own reality. The predator's calculus. Why harmlessness invites exploitation. In natural ecosystems, predators employ sophisticated risk assessment before engaging potential targets. A lion doesn't pursue a wolverine despite the size differential. The cost-benefit analysis doesn't justify the engagement. Predators seek prey that presents minimal resistance and maximal reward. When you consistently present as entirely agreeable, perpetually accessible, and incapable of consequences, you broadcast a specific signal to the primitive pattern recognition systems in human brains. You believe you're communicating virtue and approachability. The actual message received is, no defensive capabilities detected. Exploitation carries zero cost. Consider the individuals you genuinely respect. Does your respect stem from their constant accommodation of your preferences? Do you revere them because they lack the capacity to challenge or oppose you? You respect them because they possess agency, establish clear boundaries, and maintain the demonstrated capacity to withdraw their presence or resources. There exists a perceptible threshold, and you instinctively understand that crossing it produces consequences. True virtue requires the capacity for its opposite. A person fundamentally incapable of causing harm isn't virtuous. They're merely powerless. Virtue demands the ability to inflict damage, to speak the truth that fractures relationships, to walk away and never return, and then consciously choosing a different path. That is disciplined power. That commands respect. Currently, you're experiencing systematic exploitation because you've demonstrated an absence of defensive capabilities. You've shown that regardless of how others behave, canceling commitments without notice, speaking over you consistently, undervaluing your contributions, violating trust, you will remain, rationalize their behavior, extend forgiveness, and attempt to understand their perspective. Stop understanding, start observing. They aren't confused. They aren't temporarily struggling. They're testing structural integrity. Each time they apply pressure and your boundaries collapse, they confirm ownership of territory you believed was yours. You've communicated that you represent low-value real estate available for unlimited use. This constitutes the first uncomfortable truth. You aren't victimized by their cruelty. You're experiencing the consequences of absent boundaries. You've provided the weapon currently being used against you. Why? Because fear governs your choices. You're terrified that revealing your capacity for opposition will trigger abandonment. Beneath your accommodating exterior lives a core belief. Without your utility, you possess insufficient inherent value to warrant their continued presence. You believe that ceasing to perform means ceasing to exist in their awareness. This represents your trauma bond with the world, purchasing affection through servitude in a transaction where you're perpetually shortchanged. The covert contract, your invisible manipulation. You're operating an unconscious scheme. You don't recognize it because you've cast yourself as the selfless protagonist. Psychologically, however, you're enforcing a unilateral agreement with everyone in your orbit. The implicit contract reads, I will suppress my needs, never express anger, fulfill all your requirements, and become the ideal colleague, partner, or friend. In exchange, you must provide love, protection, and permanent commitment. The critical flaw, you never disclosed this agreement. You drafted and signed it privately, then developed resentment when others failed to honor terms they never acknowledged. You're furious they don't anticipate your needs with the precision you apply to theirs. You're bitter about their lack of reciprocal sacrifice. But why would they sacrifice? You've made their comfort cost-free. This exposes the shadow aspect of compulsive accommodation. It's fundamentally manipulative. It's a strategy designed to prevent rejection by becoming indispensable. If I'm sufficiently useful, I become irreplaceable. This is the logic of someone attempting to avoid punishment through preemptive servitude. But servants remain servants regardless of their efficiency. When operating from covert contracts, you're not giving freely. You're extending loans with compound interest. When people fail to repay in validation currency, bitterness accumulates. This resentment leaks through passive-aggressive comments, theatrical sighs during household tasks, and strategic silence. Others detect this. They perceive the resentment emanating from you, and it generates repulsion. They lose respect because they recognize you as a martyr. Nobody respects martyrs until they're safely dead and can be mythologized. You must terminate this contract. Stop trading obedience for affection, because affection earned through compliance isn't love. It's conditional approval. Approval functions as an addictive substance, providing brief satisfaction before demanding another dose. Genuine respect, the type that prevents exploitation, only emerges when you act without expecting return, or more importantly, when you prioritize your legitimate self-interest. The economics of availability, why you're valued at zero. Economics teaches us about opportunity cost. Every acceptance constitutes a refusal of something else. When you agree to assist a friend's relocation while exhausted, you're declining your own recovery. When you accept uncompensated overtime, you're rejecting your dignity. You're liquidating your life at clearance prices. Items in permanent surplus hold zero market value. Air is essential but free, so it's wasted thoughtlessly. Gold serves minimal practical function, but its scarcity makes it precious. You're functioning as air. You need to become gold. Transformation requires scarcity. Human psychology values what might disappear. Currently, nobody fears losing you because you're omnipresent. A fixture like furniture, noticed only when needed, ignored otherwise. If that furniture suddenly vanished, they'd notice the absence immediately. You need to master strategic withdrawal. This isn't manipulation or toxic ghosting. It's intentional energy reallocation. When you detect exploitation, your instinct demands intensified effort, explicit explanation, and requests for validation. Don't you see everything I contribute? Don't speak. Don't explain. Withdraw. Remove your energy from availability. The moment you withdraw attention, the dynamic shifts fundamentally. The other party perceives a vacuum. Suddenly, they lean forward. Is something wrong? Are you upset? They're not concerned about your emotional state. They're verifying whether their supply source has malfunctioned. They're checking if the appliance needs repair. This moment presents a choice. You can provide reassurance, no, everything's fine, sorry, and reconnect yourself to their drain. Or you can maintain the withdrawal. You can prioritize yourself. I'm focusing on personal priorities currently. Ambiguity contains power. Clarity signals weakness. When you're completely transparent, people know precisely which parts to exploit. When you're mysterious, you're handled carefully. You must develop comfort with interpersonal space. Most people find that space terrifying, so they fill it with messages, apologies, and nervous laughter. Those who understand power remain comfortable in the void. When you stop initiating contact, you discover who genuinely values you versus who values your utility. Certain phones will stop ringing. Excellent. Allow dead relationships to fall away naturally. You maintain draining relationships because you're terrified of solitude. But isolation surpasses enslavement. In solitude, you can build. In enslavement, you can only serve. When you apply scarcity to your presence, your value increases exponentially. Your agreement becomes expensive. When you decline 90% of requests, the 10% you accept become significant events, privileges rather than expectations. People begin thinking, they said yes to me, I must matter. Notice the reversal? Previously, you sought validation of your importance. Now, by withholding availability, you make others feel important when you engage. You've reversed the script. You've become the architect, integrating the shadow, becoming dangerous. Carl Jung declared, I would rather be whole than good. Wholeness requires integrating your capacity for harm. You must be capable of danger. This is the transformation that stops exploitation. You must be willing to destroy the bridge while standing on it. People exploit you because they recognize your attachment to outcomes. You need the employment. You need the relationship. You need the stability. The person who cares least wields the most power. This is the fundamental law of relational dynamics. Inability to walk away makes you a prisoner. Prisoners get exploited. Walking away capability requires cultivating ruthlessness, not toward others, but toward your own comfort addiction. You must be willing to face unknown chaos rather than accept known suffocation. This demands integrating your aggression. Aggression isn't violence. It's the energy that propels you forward against resistance. It's the force that declares, "This is my boundary." Crossing it produces penalties. Without aggression, your boundaries are suggestions, lines drawn in sand that waves erase effortlessly. With integrated aggression, your boundaries become walls. Recall a moment when someone disrespected you and you remained silent. You felt heat in your chest, throat constriction. That was your shadow demanding release. That was self-respect attempting to defend you. You suppressed it. You swallowed poison to preserve peace. That poison made you sick. Next time, allow the heat to rise. You don't need to shout. You don't need to fight. Simply make eye contact with absolute stillness and state, "I will not accept that." Then, and this is critical, stop talking. Don't explain. Don't justify. Don't apologize. Deliver the boundary and sit in silence. The silence will be oppressive. It will be uncomfortable. The other person will scramble. They'll attempt humor. They'll try blaming you. You're being overly sensitive. You don't react. You maintain the gaze. You're revealing the monster. You're demonstrating that beneath the accommodating surface exists something immovable. This moment changes everything. Their brain recategorizes you from safe, exploitable, to respected, dangerous. You've become a person of consequence. Emotional autonomy, the ultimate shield. You haven't implemented boundaries because you're addicted to external validation. You need their confirmation that you're acceptable. When they're angry, your internal world collapses. This is why you fix things. This is why you chase. You're attempting to stabilize your own anxiety by regulating their mood. You must develop emotional autonomy. This means your internal state operates independently of their external reactions. If they're angry, allow them their anger. It's not your responsibility to metabolize their emotions. Imagine yourself as granite, dull, uninteresting, impenetrable. When a manipulator attempts provocation, guilt-tripping, or exploitation, you give nothing. No drama, no emotional supply. "I can't do that favor." Why? You always do it. You're being selfish. I understand you feel that way, but the answer is no. Flat tone, neutral expression. You're not engaging in argument. You're stating reality. Gravity doesn't debate when you fall. It simply is. Be like gravity. When you stop jading, justifying, arguing, defending, explaining, you strip away their power. They cannot hook you if there's nothing to grab. This infuriates manipulators. They want the reaction. They want the fight, because fights allow them to twist your words. In silence, they're alone with their own toxicity. Emotional autonomy is the ultimate shield. It allows you to observe people instead of absorbing them. You start seeing the mechanisms. He's deploying guilt to get free labor. She's using silent treatment to extract apologies. It becomes a game you're watching, not a tragedy you're living. When you watch the game, you can choose not to play. You can step off the board entirely. The only winning move with exploitative people is not to play. From helper to builder, identity transformation. You've confused availability with value. You think constant presence equals importance. Wrong. Water is everywhere, so it's wasted. Diamonds are rare, so they're treasured. You must shift from being a helper to being a builder. Helpers get used. Builders get hired. Helpers beg for gratitude. Builders command compensation. What are you building? Are you constructing your own body, mind, empire? Or are you carrying bricks for someone else's castle? When you focus on your own mission, you naturally become less available. You don't pretend to be busy. You are busy, constructing a life independent of their approval. This is attractive. People are drawn to momentum. When they see you moving toward goals, they want to participate. They will chase you. But this time, they're chasing because they value you, not because you're convenient. This is the shift from resource to architect. The architect has a blueprint. He has a plan. He doesn't have time to fix your minor problems because he's building something significant. If you want the architect's time, you must offer equivalent value. You must elevate yourself. This filters out parasites automatically. Parasites seek open wounds. They seek weakness. They cannot attach to a moving train. Get moving. Have a purpose that supersedes your relationships. This sounds cold, but it's the only path to healthy relationships. If your partner is your entire world, you're a burden. You're heavy. If you have your own world, you're a partner. You're a mystery, a challenge. Human beings love challenges. They love what they must earn. Stop giving it away freely. Make them earn access. Create a VIP section in your life. Not everyone gets in. The admission price is respect. The admission price is reciprocity. If they cannot pay, they remain in the lobby. And you don't feel guilty because you know the value of what's inside. The sin of self-betrayal. There exists a sin worse than any other: self-betrayal. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you betray yourself. You're telling your subconscious, I don't matter. My feelings are wrong. My safety is secondary. Do this repeatedly and you'll develop deep self-hatred. This is why you're exhausted. You're not tired from external demands. You're tired from the internal war, the conflict between the part of you that wants to live and the part killing itself to please others. You must end the war. You must declare a truce with yourself and wage war on disrespect. This is the transformation. You must be willing to be the villain in their story so you can be the hero in yours. They will call you selfish. They will call you cold. They will say, you've changed. Correct response: I have changed. I stopped being food. Let them construct their narratives. Let them cast you as the antagonist. The villain is often just the character with boundaries. The villain is the one who prioritized himself. Own the title. If protecting my peace makes me the villain, then I'm the villain. When you accept this, their weapons disintegrate. Guilt only functions if you agree you should feel guilty. Shame only works if you agree you're shameful. When you shrug and say, maybe I am selfish, they have nowhere to go. You've disarmed them by agreeing with the accusation. This is Machiavellian indifference, the ultimate freedom. The freedom to be misunderstood, the freedom to be disliked, because the price of universal approval is self-hatred, and that's a price you can no longer afford. The future you. Imagine yourself 6 months from now. This version enters a room without scanning for approval. This version speaks slowly, clearly, without apology. When someone makes an unreasonable request, this version says no with a calm smile and feels zero guilt. This version attracts respect like magnetism. People want proximity to this version because they feel safety in their strength. They know where they stand. This version isn't used, they're consulted. This version isn't drained, they're energized. This reality is available to you, but it demands a sacrifice. You must sacrifice the comfort of the cage. You must sacrifice the illusion that sufficient niceness will make the world reciprocate. The world is not nice. The world is indifferent. It respects leverage. It respects power. It respects those who respect themselves. You teach people how to treat you not with words, but with actions, with what you refuse to tolerate, with the times you walk away, with the silence you hold. This is the language of the unconscious. Once you speak it, dynamics change permanently. You will look back at the person you are today, the person begging for scraps of affection, and you won't recognize them. You'll see them as a stranger who died so you could live. Be ruthless with your old self. Compassionate, yes, but ruthless, because that old self is keeping you small, and the world needs you big. The world needs you strong. The world needs you sovereign. Your next move. You have a choice right now. You can close this and return to the pattern that's slowly destroying you, continuing to give until there's nothing left, wondering why the world keeps taking. Or you can decide that today is the day the old version dies. Start with one boundary, one person, one situation where you've been tolerating disrespect. The next time they cross that line, don't explain, don't justify, don't soften it. Just state your boundary and hold the silence. Watch what happens. Watch how the dynamic shifts when you stop being available for exploitation. Watch how people suddenly develop respect for you when consequences become real. This is your architecture. You're no longer building someone else's empire. You're constructing your own. The question is, are you ready to pick up the tools?